Hey guys, welcome to Two Guys in Hockey Talk, episode 18, season 4. Wow, what a week of hockey around the world. Whether we're talking junior, whether we're talking the minor leagues, it is busy hockey, hockey, hockey. Hey Pavel, how's my co-host?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. I've been getting into Twitter spats with people, so I'm loving it. So my mental health is low and perfect and easy going. But Evan, how are you doing?
Hey, I've been doing great. I've been getting into Twitter spats with people. You know what? I could be totally wrong. That's the thing. So, by the way, guys, just to give you a heads up, so every Wednesday night, just like those who are joining us live right now, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe, follow, like, share. By the way, if you are not a social media, which I've been running into more and more of you, subscribe on our YouTube channel. You can pull it up, post, present. It will also give you notifications if you're actually wanting to get those directly wherever you are, whether you're traveling, out and about like I am tonight, no matter what you're doing. And you can follow us on Twitter. So go ahead. You're really good with the Twitter handles. What's our Twitter handles, buddy?
Well, you can follow us directly at hockey_2 for the Hockey Guys Twitter account. But if you want to directly DM Evan and tell him how he knows nothing about hockey, it's Revan_Ev. Revan Ev. That's his whole deal. And he will do things. Whereas I have photos on Instagram under Color Avenues. So if you want cat content, which, I mean, who doesn't in this day and age? Because we can all agree that cats are the best, right? I'm going to get some dog people now attacking me, but
Okay, can we just say so hockey_talk is actually Pavel running that channel? So don't make all the assumptions, all that Twitter spatting is all my opinions on
oh
this
no,
man.
it's all me. It's all me. I should be doing work, but I'm tweeting about it, from my office desk. Like, come
Well,
on, how dare
hey,
you?
hey, man, that's work. You know what? I think getting into Twitter spats about hockey is more work than actually working itself. I mean, oh
It's
my,
not.
what are people doing with their time that they're actually doing it? And here I am, actually the one doing it.
It's not
So
even. It's not even. It's not even paying the bills. But anyways, as an
yeah.
aside, remember, guys, we are working in partnership with Sports Empire. They are amazing. They've got a lot of great sports content. Check out Freddie and the gang. They've got a lot going on. They've got shows on NFL, NBA, MLB, everything you want to know. MMAs, all the sports contents you want, but they come to us, and you guys can come to us for your daily hockey content. We've
All
got a
right.
lot, and our Facebook page
So
we post quite a bit. Go ahead.
absolutely, guys. And remember, they follow all other sports. They do have some guys talking hockey also now as we expand our hockey over in Sports Empire Network. But definitely NBA, all the other factions of sports. Check out the podcast regularly at all those avenues. So Zilster saying she's in Portland tonight. You know, our hockey traveler. And Zilster, you're asking where all my hockey is. So I just want to let everybody know that I got nothing behind me because I got nowhere to hang it. I'm in a hotel room held up in Niagara Falls tonight. So I just booted the wife out. Said, "Hunt, go get Chinese food," right? You know, and because all hockey players love Chinese food, you know, and
Blink
obviously,
twice if you're being held hostage and you're being told to talk about other sports.
so I am in the home of the Niagara Falls Ice Dogs, the Niagara Ice Dogs, man. I believe
Great
that's
team,
the
great
team.
team.
So I checked everywhere local that was going on for hockey. The only one hockey in the area because we will be spending some time tomorrow in Toronto. And then on Friday, we'll be spending exclusively here. I did have a chance to get, and I could not convince the wife to drive over to Buffalo to catch the Islanders and Buffalo game. Just didn't work time wise. The wife wasn't excited enough. So I guess I'm just going to have to make a hockey folks trip. You know what I mean? Just for those who want hockey. Imagine if we made a trip where we could spend 1 week and every day 1 to 2 hockey games every single day, whether it's AHL, junior, AAA, AA, and NHL. That would be fabulous in the area. There's a lot of teams.
I'm gonna say, and I know your wife. I think this is grounds for divorce. I'm not gonna lie, like the fact that she won't let you go see a hockey game. It's bad enough I have to be married to a Vancouver Canucks fan, but that would be, that would be borderline abuse. That's what I'm saying.
Oh man. Well, everyone, hey, thanks for joining us. We're gonna get right to it. There has been a whole bunch of stuff. I do think that, and I'm wondering. I believe the spats that you've been having might be the same spat I have. Pavel
Yeah.
and I have not even discussed, or I don't think
No.
we've read each other's stuff. I have no idea what his take is. He has no idea what my take is. So maybe we're gonna have a spat. But can I first, before we dive into this first question around Ivan Provorov, can I just say this before it's all our own personal opinion.
Yeah.
So please, anything that I may say or that Pavel may say or either other people that are around you, it doesn't bear any merit if you are not in agreement. It doesn't matter. Don't listen to us. It's perfectly fine. Half the time you probably don't listen to us anyway. So maybe this is a time to just kind of tune us out. But yeah, let's talk. And again, remember, I think the main focus for us here is we want to talk hockey. So why don't you start us off? But before we do, buddy, are we ready?
Oh yes.
Let's
Very
grab your
much so.
bevy. Grab your bevy. If you're traveling, I don't know, Zell, you got your bevy. Come on, let's toast.
Whoever's watching, wherever you're tuning in from, make sure you like, comment, and let us know down in the comments section. So, just some facts about the situation. So,
okay, let's do
the
it.
Philadelphia Flyers were hosting the Anaheim Mighty Ducks for Pride Night. They ended up winning the game. Props to Kevin Hayes for getting a hat trick. That was a pretty impressive game.
Nice, yes.
If you guys want more details about the Flyers organization, give beat writer Jamie Basco a follow. He has some really good content on Twitter. But so before the game began, there was a pre-warm up skate for the team, and all
absolutely.
the team came out as per Pride Night, wearing Pride colors, jerseys, things of that nature to skate. And lo and behold, Ivan Provorov, who plays defense for the team on the top four, was nowhere to be seen. So of course, people start asking questions who are following this, what's going on, injury, etc. Turned out that he had declined to participate in the pregame skate. When commenting about it after the game, he indicated that it is his, and I quote, personal belief and his religious background that he chose to opt out. He didn't want to say much more unless it was about the hockey situation.
He referred to that he's Russian Orthodox.
No, so that was the follow-up question I was getting at. I was trying to be very meticulous.
Oh, okay,
so
sorry.
A follow-up question asking who what the religion was. And that's where he specified he's Russian Orthodox. And of course, John Tortorella spoke, that's Provy for you. He sticks to his convictions, and he's going to play. Wasn't benched. Nothing happened. And the game ensued. They ended up winning. And of course, everyone went home happy. And there was no Twitter spat at all. And he was not trending at all today. So that's where we're at. Now, there's been a division in terms of whether or not he should have participated in that, given his background, given what he believes. And that is where a lot of the discussion has emerged from. So, Evan, I want you to kind of share your thoughts about the situation and anything else I may have missed about the surrounding situation.
No, absolutely. And so, again, I know that this is a sensitive topic around everything. Now, first of all, everybody needs to know that they do have a specific group with diversity, a diversity alliance that is in the NHL. It has become a part of it. The Players Association, everybody knows of it. There has been support for many years of Pride throughout the NHL. But not every team has done what the Philadelphia Flyers have done now for the first time. And that is during warm-ups. It's become very popular around hockey that you wear an extra jersey in support of a cause. So there's been people in the years past have worn military-type jerseys. Camouflage-type jerseys in support of military and so forth. And so
hockey fights cancer for the purple and the people you're fighting for.
And we know exactly the different things that are out there. So in this case, what has happened is there's a whole bunch of mini stories within the story. So first of all, I did not even realize that. I did not even pay much attention to it till I hit on Twitter, and then I saw something come in. So the first thing that I saw was a bunch of people getting quite upset. Then I saw people that were defending, people that were attacking, and I saw both sides of this counter. Unfortunately, this is the unfortunate part, that people have cared more about this than the actual game itself. That's my first thought, right? I believe you're giving Provorov more attention than he needs. But then on the other hand, and I have got into some Twitter wars, my struggle is not that someone disagrees. I think that you should share your opinions. I think that is perfectly fine. But what I struggle with, and it's not just this specific thing, it's however, this is what is out front and center right now, is that on Twitter, when someone shares something, if they believe something, when we found this during COVID, we found this with people on the vaccine, non-vaccine, all this type of stuff. When someone disagrees, they get upset at them and they call them haters. And that's a problem for me, because when you start calling someone a hater that did not use, now, you know what? For all I know, maybe he is a hater. I don't know. He has not said he is. You could say, you can draw your own conclusions. But again, we're talking about hockey. It's not about the game. I do not blame Provorov. I'll tell you who I blame that this has even become an incident. I actually blame the NHL, and I blame the hockey teams. Now, this is not just professional hockey. I have never liked it when they, for example, support military causes. I have no problem myself in my opinions on military. However, not everybody supports the military. Not everybody's in support of those things. They honor them. They'll do all these extra things for them. And I believe when we start bringing things from outside into this area, then it becomes controversy and people are just urged on. I think what's happened is you have an owner, a company that has said, you must do this. And he did not agree with it. Now, I want to also say that just because he's Russian Orthodox, there are people that have no religious faith that may or may not do this. Just like we know Evander Kane in Edmonton did not want to get vaccinated, actually did something illegal according to the NHL. People have varying opinions. And my concern that I've had with this, and I know I'm going on and on, is that immediately because someone doesn't agree, they're called haters. And yet what they're doing is hating on that person. They're becoming bigots themselves. And that's what bothers me. It's not the fact that they believe that, hey, you know what? He was wrong and he shouldn't be able to play. You go ahead and state those opinions. But I hate it when you start judging the person and not allowing that person to make their own decisions. And I don't think that this does good for the cause and the support of the LGBTQ plus community. That's just my opinion. And it doesn't mean I'm right, but it also doesn't mean I'm wrong. It's just an opinion. Pavel, where have you landed on this?
I mean, we're close to a similar page on this situation, and I would say that I'm about the same way. So the problem that I had with this situation that emerged is that this was an initiation that the team took on, the leadership team, of which Provorov wears an A. He is part of that elite leadership team for that organization. Now, we know the Philadelphia Flyers had a difficult season. We know that John Tortorella is definitely an interesting coach and has made some interesting choices. And I question why he would not bench somebody after that choice, but bench Kevin Hayes just a few weeks back in December 12th, if you remember, Kevin Hayes, for not playing defensively enough, as well as if you go back a little bit, he said after the Black Lives Matter protest and Colin Kaepernick in the NFL kneeling to the anthem, that he would bench anyone who kneeled during the national anthem in the NHL on his team because his son is an Army Ranger. That's fine. But all of a sudden he changes his tune. So I put this on the coach because you have a chance. And this isn't a guy who isn't afraid to bench a high-end player.
He'll bench anybody.
Yeah. So I put this a little bit on the leadership. Second off, Scott Lawton and Trevor Van Riemsdyk were the guy. Trevor or James Van Riemsdyk, one of the two. James. They're responsible for initiating this, and they brought kids of the LGBTQ community onto the ice before the pregame warm-up and wanted to participate in it. And Ivan Provorov, he has been here since he has been 13, 14 years old in America. And regardless of religious ideology, which we can do a whole separate episode on.
Absolutely.
It's my struggle with religiosity is that you don't get to pick and choose one rule that you believe goes behind something. And then all of a sudden, you can do whatever you want.
Fair. Yeah.
Is he following every single rule dictated by the Russian church or Russian Orthodox Church? I mean, that remains to be seen. That's not for me to judge. I'm just saying, why pick and choose that? Second off, this was Pride Night designed not only by the leadership team, but by the organization. They chose this. If he felt that this is so difficult for him, that it's challenging his core beliefs, don't play the game at all. But you played the game. You went out there and you made your money. If you felt so violated by the situation, go and play. And again, as you mentioned earlier, and I had this Twitter spat with people, how would people react if a player opted out of partaking in Camo Night or breast cancer or like hockey fights cancer, right?
Yeah.
Like,
or kneeling at the anthem, right? Because they didn't agree with. Yeah.
And so this pick and choose of,
That's true.
And I think the problem is there's been so much stride made with LGBTQ community and hockey, and they've tried to be inclusive. You had Luke Prokop, the Nashville prospect, who came out
first.
And that was the big deal. And you want people to feel safe. What if there's a player right now that wants to come out and heard this, and maybe he plays for that team and says, you know what, or he's a prospect. He's like, you know what, I don't want to play for this team. I don't want to be on this team where I'm not welcome and treated the same way.
Right.
Because of the fact that someone doesn't want to wear a jersey for 15 minutes just to get out. Can he not like something? Certainly. But he is employed by the Philadelphia Flyers organization and the National Hockey League. That is the organization that has chosen this initiative. If they chose not to be part of this initiative, as you indicated, then he'd be out of the clear. But he chose to make a statement with that. He also made a choice with those words. He said, that's not my lifestyle. It's different. And I respect those that choose it. We are living in 2023. Nobody chooses to be LGBTQ. People are born with it. Unless you don't believe that, that's, again, another separate whole argument, right? Okay. If you believe that being gay is a choice, then we have a bigger discussion. And I'm not going to get into the whole, this. Like, I got into spats today, but I said, you know what? At the end of the day, you want to defend this? Fine. If a player does this now for the military night, you better be okay with it, right? And people, well, he has a right to his opinion. Everyone has the right to the freedom of speech, but not freedom from consequence. So, long story short, that's what I see it as.
Yeah, I guess this is the concern that I have, and it's not about just the LGBTQ plus, but it's about anything in work when an employer, it could be a plywood company, asking you to wear a pride shirt on that day, right? That's I guess when it starts coming into work and you now need to show your visual support, and someone maybe isn't in agreement with it. And again, I don't really care. I'm just saying that you can't just have it one way. Now, let me say that because I do want to give some comments. So Zilstra has tapped in here, and she has said he prefaced it with no disrespect, which was meaning it's disrespecting. So I don't see that the same, Zilstra, that he's disrespecting if he says no disrespect. And again, you may think that differently. However, I love your next point. Not that I don't like that point, by the way. Your next point is so true. So the next one that you went on to say, you said, I don't understand why it appears to us, the fans, that it was done last minute with no one knowing till it was done. And that's what you just talked about, Pavel. Yeah. So now let's take the other end of this now. So if this is someone just saying, I don't want to support this, they've known, it didn't just happen last second. They go, oh, by the way, we're doing this. It was planned out. There should have been a discussion. Provorov had a responsibility to go to his employer and exactly talk about what he felt comfortable or not comfortable doing. Whether he sat out or not, that could have been a team decision, whether it was allowed. And then it falls on the onus of the team. But you're right. He made the focus on him almost to make a larger statement is what it. Now, maybe that was not the intention. Maybe there's not. Let's just assume the best, that there was not that kind of intention. Unfortunately, it's too late because making a last-minute statement like that did do exactly that thing that Zilch was talking about. It was just like, okay, you had time to prepare. You had time to make decisions here. And not to mention, this is the other part. Now, I'm going to swing a little bit here because I say about your employer, but everybody knows that there is support from the NHL and the NHLPA. So if you are an employee of a team, you also are an employee of that league that they're a part of.
Yeah.
It'd be like being a lawyer in a firm, but under the bar, you still have obligations that you have to fulfill. And so in the same way, he made this bigger than this had to be, and it didn't have to be a front and center issue. And there will be repercussions because of this. It doesn't matter what you think, there will be. It won't be able to be set still like this. And unfortunately, we have to sit here because of the way it was dealt with. So
Agreed. And I want to, and you alluded to this earlier, which I really applaud. It took away from the night, not only from the Philadelphia win,
yes,
which they've been looking for wins. Kevin Hayes getting a hat trick, amazing, first time in his career. Props to Kevin Hayes. He was looking up in the sky for his brother to kind of congratulate him after everything he's gone through. Second off, the whole point of the night was Pride Night. That was the purpose, to bring awareness and to bring recognition to the LGBTQ community, right? Give them a moment to celebrate, to own it. He wasn't being asked to go partake in Pride Parade out in Philadelphia, right? Not to mention, I heard some comments saying, wait till he finds out he's from Philly, the city of brotherly love, which was a kicker for me. But
boo.
Right, I'm sorry, it's the dad joke in me. But at the end of the day, this all could have been avoided if he was a healthy scratch. He said he was sick. He wasn't feeling up to it. End of story. I guarantee you there's probably more players that feel maybe similar to Ivan Provorov in the NHL, but they don't vocalize it. You see this in other sports as well because it is their livelihood, and you have to be conscientious. And for people saying media is making a big deal out of it, we didn't make a big deal out of it. He is the one that brought it up by not showing up on the ice. People will ask questions. People follow leads. This is what's happened, right?
So, in all fairness now, when we say the media, I don't believe the media, mainstream media did not make the big deal. They're just reporting on what everyone's reaction. I'm just saying, but initially, it was not the actual media. It was the people on social media that things blew up. And let's face it, that's newsworthy when it's talked about source between people, right? Yeah. And so, and again, it's unfortunate. It took away from the people on the ice and the things that were happening, the ceremonies that night. And you know what? There needs to be a sense to be able to make people comfortable in whatever, and however that's done, that needs to be decided ahead of time. So anyway, we can go on and on, in different
we
stuff.
We would love somebody from the LGBTQ community who's involved in hockey to come on, connect with us. Maybe they could share their thoughts. You guys can comment below.
Absolutely.
Let us know privately.
So can I just say, I want to say the issue that, again, I take is if you disagree, don't become a hater. If you think Provorov or whoever his camp is, even Tortorella, because it was a double standard, totally agree on the coach. That was another piece. Just don't hate on them. Don't feed back. They say hurt people. Don't fall into that. Try to look at it from a different point of view and share with intellect, right? Share with understanding. Help to try to educate without being disrespectful at the same time, right? To someone who may have been disrespectful. So, okay, man.
I wonder
let's
if
move on.
Playing tonight, you guys can let us know.
Yeah. Okay. This is funny. So, okay, I got to mention this. So Zill just goes, yep, and taking up half your show. Oh, my goodness, Zill, you are so right.
Sorry. It was a big deal. It was a big deal. Sometimes we report on what's been happening.
But things have been happening, and this goes back to, I know we got to get off this topic. This is also why I did not, and I love the fact that it's been brought up that he could have made a decision beforehand. So Kaepernick, when he kneeled with an anthem because of the Black Lives Matter, I believe that Colin Kaepernick should have had this discussion with the team and said, this is what I'm doing. I don't believe it should have been a last-minute thing that actually took the wrong attention away and caused the division. So anyway, okay, man, let's move on. That was the first thing we both said we wanted to make sure. And the reason we have talked about it is because it's relevant right now, live time. So it happened last night. All right, let you take the first subject. Where do we want to go here?
Well, you had a bunch of topics you wanted to talk about. I mean,
you had a whole bunch too. Okay, can I talk about goaltending?
Yes.
So this year, Vasilevsky, we talked about this just a minute bit last week. So the goalies that everyone looks at as being incredible all-star, elite, superstar goalies, those goalies are not performing the same this year. And it's interesting. You don't hear people complaining, say, let's just pick on Tampa Bay, because I want to go on about the team a little bit in a moment. And there's other goalies, maybe if you can think of some goalies who are struggling this year, who naturally you thought would have a higher save percentage. And by the way, I will not go
John
by goals.
Gibson in Anaheim.
Well, he was already starting to falter, but not this bad, right? And so if there's anyone else you guys can think of.
Shesterkin in New York Rangers.
Okay, there we go.
Unreal season last year.
Is he not? I believe he's below. Someone can check for me. I didn't pull it up tonight. I've been busy traveling all day long. But I believe he's under 900 save percentage. And you go by save percentage, it's going to be a much better stat for a goalie that reflects more on him. I know there's quality of chances, but it's interesting. So in Vasilevsky's situation here,
he's actually at 918 this season.
Shesterkin?
Yep.
Okay, so that then he's not having a bad season then. He may have had some bad games.
He's picked it up in the last little bit, but he started.
Yeah, but there's no way the last 4 games are going to make a difference in your save percentage. So he wouldn't have been below a 910. Yeah, it takes a lot to change your save percentage in your percentage of your games at this point, because he's probably sitting around 28 to 30 games already. But anyway, one of the things that I'm just kind of mentioning to people is it's interesting when you have a favorite team. And we'll talk as soon as we wrap this conversation. We'll go into talking about our previously scheduled guest for tonight and explain what's happening with Sean Fiery. But so Tampa Bay Lightning, very few people right now are actually looking at Vasilevsky and saying he's a terrible goaltender. They've talked about him. They're just saying he's having a hard time. When Price let in 8 goals, they're saying, oh, it was just a bad night. That happened to Patrick Waugh. It happened to the best of the goalies. But it's interesting when a goalie who not everyone looks at as a great goalie does really well. You know what they say? Oh, that's just a small time. He's only played like 5-7 good games. Shesterkin last year. How often are people like questioning, oh, he can't keep it up. He can't do. Goalies can have a hot season and a cold season. We've covered these types of things. One of our guests, Cassidy Sauve, who's been on the show, plays professional women's hockey around the world. She shared that like some days a beach ball goes in and other days everything, it feels like it's a beach ball and you can save everything. And so it's interesting on fans' reactions. And maybe some of you can attest to this, but it's really difficult for a goalie to be consistent night after night after night. And it shows Tampa is still a good team this year, but Vasilevsky hasn't had to be a superstar in goal, whereas other years he's had to be a superstar. So that says a lot for the team to keep winning still, but yet their goalie is having one of his biggest struggles yet. Mm-hmm. So any thoughts on the goaltending part?
Jordan Bennington has struggled for the St. Louis Blues this year. His save percentage this year has been .894.
Okay.
Thus far.
All right.
Another one, which is surprising, is Martin Jones out in Seattle. Even though Seattle's doing elite, they've won 7 in a row on the road, which is like a record. It's incredible. He is also at what is it? .895.
Where are we sitting at?
Jacob Markstrom. .894. Another goalie who has struggled this season, who's really hasn't found his game.
Yeah, Demko. I see Zylstra. You're saying Demko. You're right. Demko actually, everyone thought Demko would be playing at a much higher save percentage.
Now too. Yep.
Yeah, but that's before injury, though, right? Before injury.
LA, another team in the Pacific that's doing well, but goaltending, they've had to switch to Phoenix Copley, but really Jonathan Quick.
Copley's been awesome, man.
Right.
So okay, so Copley's an opposite on this. So another one Zylstra mentioned was Hellebuck last year. Connor was not the superstar last year, but he's back to his form this year. Yeah. Right? That's a great one, Zylstra.
Him and Yossi Saros for me right now.
Well, right now, man, you could say if Winnipeg does well by the end, if they can win their division, I could see him being right up there in the top 3 players for Hart Trophy. I mean, 100%. To be able to see that team, because their defense is not all-star. if you know what
So
I'm
what
saying.
did you
right?
want to share about our friend who was previously on the show,
So,
Sean Fire?
so I was going to say, I believe that with Tampa Bay, one of the things is that people are seeing with the entire team. No, I just going to say this before we do a wrap up, and it's going to be interesting. Is with Tampa Bay, when you've played that many seasons that long, that's one of the hardest things is to play that deep into the year, especially with the bubbles and everything that happened, and the team not be exhausted. That's a lot of games. If you're playing like 100 games a year or 110 or whatever it would equal to be, let alone your practice time. Okay. So Sean Fiery, for those that do not know and you're following right now, is a former guest of ours who we're going to give you more detail later. But basically, he is a Tampa Bay super fan. In fact, he puts his money where his mouth is and he travels with the Tampa Bay. Well, not with them personally. I know he'd love that, but he travels to follow his team to watch them play in various arenas around the NHL. So we had him on our show to discuss some of his stories and some of what he does. Unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of stories that day. It ate up quite a bit of time just to learn what he's done in a few of the places. But he was scheduled, we told you last week, for a show. Here's the thing. So tonight, things change. I had to come out, unfortunately, because of a few things that happened in my life here that I had to be gone for a week from Alberta. So I was not going to be able to be live there to be with Pavel, to spend time with Sean Fiery and have him for a live interview. However, then it got us thinking, tomorrow night, he will be at Rogers Place watching them play the Oilers. Then he's heading down to Calgary to watch them play the Flames. And I believe he's heading down to Nashville, he said also. I can't remember the team. And he just previously saw them with the Blues or something.
Yes. Yeah, he was in St. Louis. Yeah.
So, okay. So he's on a road trip. So what we said is we want him to finish this road trip. Then we're going to walk through his stories and his basically we want to get a feel for what it was like, his experiences, what it was like at the arenas and stuff. Zylstra, that's joining us here tonight too. She's been traveling to some of the NHL arenas, AHL, ECJHL. We're going to have you on the show again here soon. We get you, Zylstra, because we want to hear these experiences. You guys truly are becoming the super fans when you literally take time. You pull your truck over and you just go see a game. You decide to take time off from work and travel for 2 weeks. I mean, oh my goodness. Pavel, I think that we got to show ourselves more serious. That's why we got to take a 2 guys break, and we have to say who's all the super fans that want to join us and go watch like 5-7 teams for a week. So anyway, so we're going to have him on afterwards when we're going to bring him back onto the show at another time. So anyway, that's what's happening and why he's not with us tonight. But tonight, Pavel's going to wrap up our show. And as the good host he is...
we have time. I want to go over a few more
little things. No. I didn't say we're ending our show right now. No, I was just saying... I said after we wrap up, as I meant... after we wrap up today, Pavel's actually he's going to be meeting up with Sean for the first time and catching up on some stories here tonight. So anyway, yeah, great.
All the things you don't know about hockey. It's going to be great.
Oh, sure, man. You go ahead.
Or anything I say that I knew, I'll say I learned from you if it's wrong.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the Vancouver Canucks. So they recently lost a player, Gino. You can speak more about him, Evan, because you probably watched him play with Pavel Bure. Indigenous fellow. Fun story about him. When he was being drafted, he actually went to go get a hot dog because Gino thought he would go later in the rounds, and he ended up having his name called while he's getting this hot dog and eating it. Great legend, great player, great person to, he was a fighter, young man, 52 years old. It's a heartbreak loss for the Vancouver Canucks organization. They're going to do something to honor him. I mean, they've already done a little bit. And it's, we lose another legend, and you got to remember that life is short and you got to really enjoy the moments with the people you love and people you care about. And no matter how many Twitter spats you get onto, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether Evan and I disagree. We care about each other and we want to enjoy ourselves, so enjoy people. As an aside, I know, exactly. Pounded to the ground. You really pounded your point down. But as an aside, there's been some rumblings after Quinn Hughes came out and said that Tanner Pearson's hand injury, wasn't properly handled. And so He's had a few surgeries on it, and now he may need more surgery, and major surgery means more invasive, more intense, and he may be out not only till next year, but also this could
Part of the
be a
year.
career-ending surgery for Tanner Pearson, who's going into his final year of his contract. So this begs the question, what's going on? So the NHLPA has launched an investigation, as has the NHL alongside them. The Canucks have done their internal investigation, which is hilarious to me because, as an aside, Evan, I'm going to investigate myself. You know, how silly is that? Oh, I didn't do something. And now there's talks of letting go of Bruce Boudreau and bringing in Rick Tocchet. So where there's smoke, there's fire. Why not fire Bruce Boudreau already? Why are you prolonging this? And what is it that you're trying to achieve as an organization, right? As well as, remember, they're trying to still trade their captain, Bo Horvat, who's having an excellent year.
Right.
If you're talking about bad PR for this year in the NHL, I think Vancouver next to Philly can take the cake because they are on a roller coaster. I don't know what their fans expect, but until Francis Aquilini, the owner, decides that he wants a direction with this team, it's a bit of a dumpster fire there in Vancouver. And the team is good on paper, and they have some good pieces. But man, oh man, I don't know what to make of any of this. Any thoughts on the injury, the trade with Bo Horvat,
okay,
comments, Gino passing, all this in a bundle.
So let me go back to Gino Odjick. I just like it, love the guy. He was one of those enforcers. So early in my years, it was quite interesting because I actually got his hockey card. I used to collect hockey cards when I was younger, and so I had some pretty good ones. But as I was 18, I decided to start selling all my rookie cards and all my new cards and the estimated ones that I saw of value. And
I still have mine.
I decided to keep Gino Odjick, and twice I tried to get his autograph. Once in Calgary, and also once in Edmonton. Interesting enough, I thought at the end of the game, my plan was to go down and get as close as I could to see if he could sign my card for me really quick. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but interesting enough, both games, he was ejected.
Oh,
he was ejected for. Yeah, he got a major in a game misconduct.
You're bad luck for Gino. You should have done those games.
So the reason was number one, being an Indigenous fella, I thought that was really cool, especially for Vancouver at the time. I thought that'd be great. They've always done great at bringing some of the folk in, and I love the fact he was an enforcer. I love the fact that he had that close relationship with my favorite player then, Pavel Bure, and so anyway, so it was a really cool thing. Unfortunately, he didn't have the career he would like to have had, but, the NHL was a different game back then. So, hearts out to the family and everyone, and pray for peace and for strength for you guys. But anyway, so around the Canucks, I'm going to say this, and it's hard for people, but you can't rebuild. You cannot rebuild when you got people like Hughes sitting in there and you got Pettersson sitting there, because you're going to have to get rid of these guys. They are not going to want to sit there and then re-sign and spend the next 3 to 4, maybe 5 years rebuilding. That's a lot of work with a hope, because remember, if you tank, there's no promise of where you're going to end up in the draft lottery still. And even so, some of the players that you think are going to be great are not. So they're going to have to retool. This has always been something Jim Rutherford was good at, but as we said, Patrick is in charge. They've had other personnel in there. I feel like there's something, they're trying to work out something around finances, and I don't know if they have the right people in there to deal with cap. I feel like there's something missing in the cap world for them. I don't have any inside story. I haven't heard anything. But, where there's smoke, there's fire, and they've been having cap issues for quite a while in some of their decisions that they've made. And so, and I will say, Rutherford, as much as you like him or hate him or what he did for the Canes, what he did for the Penguins, he gave contracts away liberally, and he took on different players. So
I think that's 90% of the GMs in the NHL.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it, right?
You look at Minnesota, and good for Matthew Boldy for getting that contract, but that team is in a cap crunch after that buyout. So, that team, is really struggling. I mean, anywhere you look, GMs give out money like it's Christmas Day every day, 365 days of the year. I mean, I wish I had that kind of incentive, but okay, well, good thoughts. So we want to talk. We've talked a little bit about Vancouver. You know, they faced some, you know, I can't even talk now. Humiliating losses this season. You wanted to touch on some of the biggest losses in NHL history on running up scores. Do you want to allude to that a little bit?
Yeah. So one of the most interesting things is in 1944, the Detroit Red Wings. Okay, the Detroit Red Wings beat the Rangers 15-0. It was the biggest lopsided score in the history of the league. And I got thinking just about the Red Wings because we've talked about, you know, people look at certain GMs, and Yzerman has always been highly looked at. And with Yzerman over there in Detroit, and I mean, it's looking like there's some good changes coming and stuff. It got me thinking about them. And so just yesterday, I was pulling up I was like, are you serious? 15-0. And it got me thinking about the Red Wings. And with the Red Wings, I was just thinking, what is a memory that you can think of maybe during your span of life or that you read about with the Red Wings that really stands out to you, a moment in time?
So I'll share a little quick story. So when I first came to Canada, I was taking bus 32 to my elementary school and junior high. So it was both at the time.
Okay.
There was a kid, Brandon, who was a little older than me. I think he was 2-3 years older than I was. He was the biggest Red Wings fan at the time. Huge. And this is the dynasty of the Red Wings. You know, Pavel Datsyuk, Henrik Zetterberg, you know, all these elite, Nicholas Lidstrom, these elite athletes. And so, of course, you know, I took curiosity because, you know, as an Edmonton fan, I was like, oh, you know, Edmonton and Red Wings, but Red Wings were elite at that time, and Edmonton wasn't doing so well. Like, they were always in the mix, but never good enough. And one of the craziest rivalries and battles I've ever saw is the Colorado Avalanche versus the Detroit Red Wings, and just some of the antics that took place on the ice and some of the battles. And, like, they're making a documentary, if it hasn't already been made, about it. Just that hatred towards those two franchises and just watching them. And I think that was one of the coolest things that the Detroit Red Wings ever had. I mean, they were also really good about drafting later on. That was one of the things they were known for, but that was a pretty big deal. I mean, the other specific memory was when they lost to Pittsburgh in 2015-16 when they won their
on the rematch on the second
right?
year.
And just how they, you know, so that was a fun series. So that's one of the things. I was intrigued recently to see that Steve Yzerman waived Alex Nedeljkovic and that he cleared. I thought somebody would have picked him up. But he's really built a strong team. They have a lot of guys who are injured, so they've really struggled. I know we talked last week about Moritz Seider. He's really picked it up in the last few games here, but he's good. Lucas Raymond has been phenomenal. But I think people like, you know, David Perron, who was picked up, who is a really streaky guy but can really put the puck in the net, he's been a phenomenal addition, you know. And I like what the Detroit Red Wings are doing. Ville Husso has come as advertised. He's been phenomenal. And I really like that defenseman Rasmussen, I think his name is, in the back end. He's a tall boy, right? I mean, I know they lost to the Coyotes yesterday, but man, oh man, that team is great. So that's one memory I have of the Detroit Red Wings, and that Brendan being a big fan of them and just always chatting about it. I think Chris Chelios was his favorite player, if I recall. And, you know, that was a hard-nosed kind of guy. He's an analyst now, but Chelios was a hell of a leader, hell of a player. You know, had some scruffs with Marc Messier, if you recall. You know, they got into some scrums. And these aren't your typical modern-day scrums. These were, you know, fist infused, really fist infused. So,
all right. Well, let me just put up. I love this comment. Sorry, I got the wrong comment from you, Zell. Them getting Marcel Dion instead of Lafleur because Montreal bought off everyone. Okay, but no, seriously. You know, as good as Lafleur was, I think if you switch those players, I think Marcel Dion was a better player than Guy Lafleur. Much as I love the flower power and the smooth skating guy, it was because Dion
Whoa.
did not play. Even when he played, and when the Kings were good, and even in Detroit, they just were not good enough. And you have to have a team surround you. I consider Marcel Dion, just so people know, he's in my top 10 of all time. Marcel Dion. I will put Guy Lafleur probably in my top 15. But yeah, no, Marcel Dion for me. So yeah, so that's an interesting one, though, Zell. So what I was going to remind everybody in 1997. So the standout for me of the Red Wings was the Red Wings Colorado Avalanche brawl. It was called Brawl in Hockey Town. Yeah. If you have not got a chance to go and, so let's say YouTube, go and look for that, the Brawl in Hockey Town. It was really a signature moment of what we would call the Red Wings and Avalanche bloody rivalry that has lasted over a decade. One of the best rivalries now that is actually incorporated. There's a whole thing we've talked about, I know, in the past, but that rivalry, considering the Avalanche were a newer team and didn't really have anything in their short time. But anyway, and I feel like that's been one of the coolest things that I've really enjoyed about them. So
I'm pretty sure they made a documentary about that, bro. That was what I was referring to.
Yes. Yeah.
But
okay. Yeah. Yes. Yep. You're right. So okay. So let me tell you some things that I'm going to be really quick on this. If you guys want,
sure.
Some of the biggest blunders. So Brian Burke. So Brian Burke, and we're going to have some other conversations about him later on, another show, another time. But Brian Burke's trade to get Phil Kessel on the Leafs in 2009, he traded the world. He traded a lot off to get Phil Kessel, and I think that that's probably one of the things that really stands out for me in being a blunder. As much as Phil Kessel was an excellent player for them, was a superstar player in Toronto, was it the right thing? The price he paid to acquire him was a really high price. So in exchange for Kessel, let me just get my stats here. I'll make sure I get this right. He gave the Bruins their first and second round draft picks for the 2010 draft and his first round pick in the 2011 draft. Because his hope was that the Leafs would be led to the playoffs by him at that Sun, of course, league and for the Stanley Cup. And so the Bruins used the draft picks that were given to them. In the 2010 draft, they picked up Tyler Seguin and Jared Knight. And the Bruins, of course, won the Cup that year while the Leafs were left doing what they always do. By the way, I'm only now a couple hours away from there right now, oh, can I tell you, I listened to the Leafs game last night. Leaf fans, you got, I don't know if it's
I watched
but
a bit of that game and the officiating and how crazy it was between the Panthers
and
the Leafs.
Oh man, it was a crazy game. But I listened to the radio announcers. Great guys, they have some great, but man, do they overvalue their team? Do they overvalue players? And I am not going to go through and mention the players, but these announcers, they got to settle down. They're making these guys think that their fourth line players are better than any team in the NHL that's fourth line in Toronto right now. I hope they do well, because it would be good for hockey to have the Rangers or the Maple Leafs in the Stanley Cup. I really believe that. But man, you're selling right now. You're selling a little beat up lemon AMC Gremlin, and you're advertising it like it's a Ford 250, brand new truck. I mean, listen, you cannot dress this thing up. It's an old Gremlin. It's not that good a vehicle. As much as you want to talk about all that stuff, it's not that good. So anyway, it just kind of bothered me when I was watching it.
I'm going to mention that something is wrong with Matthews, because he's not himself. He's nagging some kind of injury again.
Yeah,
he's not
I agree.
Hard trophy self like last year.
I totally agree.
I don't know if it's his back or if it's wrist again. I don't know what it is, but he is not the Austin Matthews. So fun fact, I don't know if you know this, that Zach Hyman has more points than Austin Matthews right now this season at this point.
Oh, that's got it. Sorry, Hans. Hans, if you're following right now or later on.
Or Desmond. Desmond's a big fan.
Des. Okay, so let me just give you two more things that I think are some of the biggest blunders ever. One was Steve Smith, 1986. Scoring from behind his net by hitting the back of the skate of Grant Fuhr and going into his net. and eventually it cost them the series, and the Calgary Flames went on to represent the West against the Montreal Canadiens, who won their first cup in the Stanley Cup Finals. But, okay, not to be outdone, in the year 2000, Mark Bergevin decides, not with his stick, but with his own hand, to casually toss the puck with his hand, guess where? Into their own net. Now, I know it wasn't a playoff game in the same way, but you thought Steve Smith, it could be an honest mistake, but tossing with your hand into your own, oh my goodness. So those are some of the biggest blunders I see in hockey. All right, man.
Those are some fun ones.
What,
I mean,
why don't
you guys can let us know what you think is one in the comments below. We'd love to hear a blunder.
Yeah.
And remember, go ahead. Yeah.
No,
Wednesday at 7 p.m. We like to talk all blunders, all hockey, all everything. Make sure to follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a follow on Twitter. Wherever you get us, make sure to tune in, even if you can, at 7 p.m. You can find episodes on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. We love hearing from you guys later on. Reach out. Evan, we talked so much about the NHL.
Okay. Can we quickly go in? Okay, so go ahead. You can read them. I'll post them.
All right. Zilstra saying Leafs haven't won since expansion started. Ooh.
Okay, let's go further.
Toronto.
Their play-by-play
and color are the worst homers of all the networks. I mean, I like Chris. Always biased when it comes to your home team. Yeah, the Boston Bruins announcer is like that. Yeah, that's Jack Edwards. But yeah, I think Matthews should heal up fully. The Leafs are actually okay without him in the lineup. Not a fan of their 5 forwards power play anymore. 2-minute shorthanded.
Oh, sorry.
Abundant shorthanded against. Yeah. So I agree. Jack Edwards is a little much for me. I know he's good at his job, but when he criticized Martin Jones, when Seattle went in, Seattle ended up beating them for the first time in home this year in Boston, which was insane. Yeah. So, Jack Edwards can definitely rub people the wrong way. He definitely is a personality. Of course, he's a homer. I got to say, I like Chris Cuthbert. I think he's a good announcer, and Craig Simpson as well. Like they feed off each other.
You know
Not
what?
as we do, but.
And let's be honest, this is one of the reasons I've heard people say, I absolutely love Jack Michaels. But I understand why people don't think he should do the national games. And that is because he's always called games for the Edmonton Oilers. And as exciting as he can make the other team sound, they still feels like there's a bit of bias towards the home team. And so to call a national game, it's a big deal to make the same amount of excitement equal for both teams and talk about both teams' players, no matter the superstars. So what we're need to come to a close, Pavel. Why don't you finish one last thing off before we call it quits today?
Darn right, partner. I mean, there's not much else to say besides Edmonton Oilers are on a 4-game road win streak, and Evander Kane is back. Now, he didn't have any goals, but he was throwing his body around. He looked pretty comfortable. Of course, a little bit of rust, but he looked good. And I guess there's been some rumblings about Puljujärvi being traded soon, to the point where somebody even texted the lineup with Puljujärvi on Boston's team, and Brad Marchand commented with an emoji going, shh. So I don't know what that's all about, but is Puljujärvi going to join Taylor Hall, ex-Oiler, and win the Stanley Cup this year?
That would be funny if it happens. But actually what's funny is I could see Brad, when someone writes that, Brad writing it, even though he knows nothing, just because he wants to get everybody all worked up. He loves playing the psych games, right?
Yes.
So that is absolutely hilarious. So, all right, man. Well, it's been another exciting week around hockey. So we're going to hope to touch base with Sean Fiery. Zil, we're going to have to get you on to start talking all the arenas that you've been visiting as well. We might even have to pre-record the show. If people don't know, Zilstra Follows has been a former guest on the show, as well as she's trucking and is stopping in the middle of trips, taking her 2-hour, 3-hour, 5-hour break and jumping in on hockey games. One thing she has told me that she's discovered, she's learned something when she attends a hockey game, but I'll wait till she comes on so she can share with you personally.
All right.
All right, buddy. Well, that's it. Any last thought?
It's been a pleasure. I appreciate co-hosting again with you. It's been fun. We again to agree to disagree. We wish everyone out there, you know, you don't have to like everything. You don't have to agree with everything. Not on our show, at least. You can have different opinions, but you have to do it respectfully. That's all we ask. Be respectful. Just tell Evan he knows nothing about hockey respectfully, and he will respectfully accept that answer. But that's it from me.
I will respectfully disagree. Well, guys, it's been another ring-a-ding-dong dandy, as Ed Whalen would say. And so in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe, everyone.
By the way, make sure that at the same time that you guys keep your heads up. You don't want to get hit. All right. Cheers, everyone.
All the best. Stay safe.